Problem number 3. The National Housing Authority, or NHA, wants to investigate the relationship between the size of houses and the rents paid by tenants in Marikina City. The NHA collected the following information on the sizes in hundreds of square feet for 8 houses and the monthly rents in 1,000 pesos paid by tenants. First step is to identify the null and alternative hypotheses. As you can see po, in the given problem, the degree of relationship is not stated. So, automatic po, the null hypothesis is R is equal to 0 and the alternative hypothesis is R is not equal to 0. For the sentence form of the null and alternative hypothesis, we have there is no significant relationship between the size of houses and the rents paid by tenants for null, and for the alternative we have there is a significant relationship between the size of houses and the tenants and the rents paid by tenants. For step 2, for problems under person R correlation, we have to identify the alpha level, the number of tailed tests, and the degrees of freedom. For the alpha level, as you can see, it is not stated in the given problem. So if the alpha level is not stated in the given problem, then automatically the alpha level for that given problem is 0.05. The number of tail tests will be determined with the basis of the mathematical symbol used in the alternative hypothesis. So, in the alternative hypothesis, for this given word problem, the mathematical symbol used is not equal sign. So, therefore, the number of tail tests for this problem is 2 tailed tests. For the degrees of freedom, the formula is n minus 2. So, n symbolizes or represents the number of paired data given in the problem or in the table. If you can recall po, we have 8 pairs of data in this given problem. So, substituting it in the given formula, we'll have 8 minus 2. Simplifying, the value for degrees of freedom is 6. Step 3, identify the statistical test that you're going to use for this given word problem. For the statistical test, it is person-R correlation because as you can see po in the given word problem, we are looking for the relationship between the two given variables. If that is the case, we are looking for the relationship of two variables, then automatically the statistical test that we should use is person-R correlation. Step 4 is the computation. Let me show you the manual computation first and solving for the summations of the variables that we have, and then later on I will just show you the shortcut method in getting the summations of the variables. Just like what we did in the previous example, we must construct a column for x times y and another column for x squared and another column for y squared, and then fill in all the necessary datas. And after that, we have to get the summation for each column. For the column of x multiplied by y, all you have to do is multiply the numerical values in the x column by the numerical values in the y column. In the values in the x multiplied by y column, we have 35 times 11 and the answer is 385. Next, we have 40 times 17, the answer is 680. Next, we have 50 times 18. The answer is 900. Multiplying the numerical values in the x column by the y column, the remaining values will be this one. Next is for x squared. All you have to do is square the numerical values in the x column. The first x value is 35, and getting the square of 35, the answer is 1125. Next, 40 times 40 or 40 squared, we have 1,600. Next is 50 times 50, the answer is 2,500. Doing it for the rest of the x values, we will have the answer as this. And then for the last column, we have y squared. So you focus on the column y and you have to square those numerical values. For the first y value, we have 11 times 11, or 11 square is 121. Next is 17 square, and the answer is 289. Next is 18 square, and the answer is 324. And squaring all the remaining values for y, we will have the value as this. Next is to get the summation for all the columns that we have. The summation for x is 317. Next, the summation of y is 106. Next is the summation of x times y, and the answer is 4,653. Next is the summation of x squared, and the answer is 13,515. Lastly, the summation of y squared, and the answer is 1,656. If you cannot follow po the instructions here and you cannot manipulate your own calculator, all you have to do po is send me a picture of your calculator, and from there I will just guide you. Method for problem number 3, we have mode and then stat, tapos 2, and then let's input the numbers. We have 35 equal sign 40 equal sign 50 equal sign 60 equal sign 28 equal sign 34 equal sign 45 equal sign 25 equal sign. Next, for the y values, we have 11, 17 equal sign, 18 equal sign, 20 equal sign, 6 equal sign, 10 equal sign, 19 equal sign, 5 equal sign. And then we press on, then shift, stat, sum. We have to get the summation of x equal sign 317 is the value for the summation of x. Then next, summation of y, shift, stat, sum, tapos 4 equal sign, this is the summation of y. Next, shift, stat, sum, summation of x squared, we have 13,515, and then on, shift, stat, sum, summation of y squared, we have 1,656, and then last one, summation of xy, shift, stat, sum, and then 5 equal sign. That's it po. Now that we know the values for the summation, we can now substitute those values in the given formula for us to get the R computed. So again, here's the formula for the R computed. Substituting the values, we'll have 8 multiplied by 4,653 minus the product of 317 and 106 all over the square root of the product of 8 multiplied by 13 times 13,515 minus 317 squared, and 8 multiplied by 1,656 minus 106 squared. I discourage you po to directly solve this in your calculator because of the amount of numbers that we have, and I'm not really sure if your calculators can parang like you can input everything in your calculator. So I highly suggest you compute for the numerator first, and then you simplify the denominator, and then you divide the numerator by the denominator, and then that's the time you can compute for the R computed. Solving for the numerator, we have 8 open, 4,653 close, minus open 317 close open, 106
tapos close, and then equal sign. This is the value for your numerator. Next, we get the value for the denominator. Square root, open, tapos 8, tapos open, 13,515, close, minus, open, 317, close, squared, close. Tapos open ulit, and then 8, open ulit, 1, 6, 5, 6, close, minus, open, 106, close, squared, close. And then you press equal sign. This is the value for your denominator. And then to get the value of the R computed, we have 3,622 all over 3,918.36. Then you press equal sign. This is the value for R computed. Again, you have to round it off to decimal places.
Step 5 is the decision rule. Decision rule for person R correlation is reject null hypotheses if the absolute value of the R computed is greater than or equal to the absolute value of your R tabular. Identifying the R tabular, just like what we did in the previous lessons, we have to go back to step 2 and recall the alpha level, the tail test, and the degrees of freedom. So since the degrees of freedom is 6, you have to locate the degrees of freedom in the first column and draw an imaginary horizontal line passing through 6. Next is to locate the level of significance in the row for the proportion in two-tailed. Since the level of significance is 0.05, you have to draw an imaginary vertical line that passes through 0.05. And the intersection of those two imaginary lines will be the value for your R tabular. Substituting the values for R computed and R tabular in the decision rule, we will have reject null hypothesis if the absolute value of 0.92 is greater than or equal to the absolute value of 0.7067. Step 6, identify if we have to reject the null hypothesis or we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Next is to check if we reject null or we fail to reject null by going back to the mathematical statement in the decision rule and check if it is true or false. So we have the absolute value of 0.92 is greater than or equal to the absolute value of 0.7067. Extracting the absolute values, we have 0.92 is greater than or equal to 0.7067, which is true. So, meaning to say po, we have to reject the null hypothesis. Next step and last step for this given problem is the conclusion. So, since we reject the null hypothesis, the basis for the conclusion will be the alternative hypothesis, and that is there is a significant relationship between the size of houses and the rents paid by tenants. Next is to find out the degree of relationship for this given problem. Computed is 0.92 and checking the range where 0.92 falls is in the range of 0.90 to 1 with the interpretation of very high positive, negative, or negative correlation. The conclusion will be there is a very high positive relationship between the size of houses and the rents paid by tenants.